Victor Wembanyama's first 5 games of his NBA career have been beyond impressive. He just had, so far, his best game of his NBA career against the Phoenix Suns, the second time the Spurs were able to beat the Suns this week. Put up 38 points on 58% shooting and 50% from the three-point line. This was his best game from a shot-making perspective. I think the most impressive thing, there are a million things about Victor, obviously, that are super impressive. There's the physical stuff, the point that this guy is 7'4" with the ability to dribble the ball like he can, the ability to shoot the ball like he can, and a million other things. There's the defense. I think by the end of this season, I would be surprised if he doesn't end up making an all-defensive team. That's how good I think he can end up being through 82 games on that end of the court, and we're seeing it through the analytics so far, how impactful he is on that end. But all of those things are really impressive about Victor. But the most impressive thing about him so far has been that most of his damage through these first 5 games, most of his damage has been done in the fourth quarter in these clutch crunch time scenarios. His first game of his NBA career, most of his damage was done in crunch time, in a clutch situation. He comes in with 5 fouls late in the fourth quarter and goes on a big-time offensive run and keeps that Spurs team in the game longer than what they should have been. And granted, the Mavs ended up winning that game. But in that first game, you were like, oh, this dude's playing like this in the fourth quarter. That's something. And then he does it again against Houston. Excuse there is, well, the Rockets aren't great comp. Okay, then we see him this week against the Suns. They make a big-time comeback against that Suns team. And I'm not going to count out what the other guys did. Devin Vassell made some really big shots. Keldon Johnson obviously got the steal in the game-winning layup. But Vic was also heavily involved in that comeback against a really good, well, a decent Suns team to get the season started. And then tonight, there's Kevin Durant. There's Devin Booker. This team is somewhat healthy. Bradley Beal is still out, and we don't know when he's going to end up coming to start for this team. But they end up getting off to a great start in the game, give up a lead, and Vic is the guy to close it out against a Kevin Durant and a Devin Booker-led team. That's something that you don't see from a lot of young guys coming into the league, especially at 19 years old. You don't hear about a lot of young guys coming in and then most of their damage or their best qualities about themselves are coming up in these fourth quarter clutch scenarios. And it's not like he's doing it against these bad rinky-dink teams. He's doing it against super high quality, superstar level players. His first game was against Kyrie and Luka Doncic, and he shined out in the clutch. These last 2 games, right? You're going head-to-head against Kevin Durant. Outdueled him. Didn't necessarily outduel Kevin Durant in that first game, but helped get that game back and win it for the Suns or win it for the Spurs. And then tonight, he did outduel both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. That's not normal. There's a lot of stuff about Victor Wembanyama that's not normal, but this thing about him being so good in the fourth quarter this early on, this is something that's really, really significant and is really, really telling because this is kind of a tough thing for a lot of young guys is figuring out ways to win games down the stretch. A lot of young teams in general don't really know how to win big games down the stretch. A lot of people talk about that. Young teams, part of their developmental process is learning how to win in the fourth quarter, right? In these clutch, close situations, just learning how to execute down the stretch. We're seeing Vic do that individually at such a high level early on. And again, it's 5 games in, right? There's still 70-something games left in the season. But the first 5 games in for him to play this well in the crunch time situations that he's done it in, it's been really, really significant for the Spurs team. And I think another interesting thing about the way he's been playing has been the fact that he's not playing with a real playmaker. So if you watch the Spurs game, there's no question, especially the first couple, you were kind of wondering, when are they going to get Vic the ball? Right? You watched Devin Vassell play, you watched Keldon Johnson or even Malachi Branham when he comes into the game, and you're like, why aren't they feeding Vic the ball as much as they should? I understand it. Those other guys have to get theirs. Devin Vassell was so good for the Spurs last season. He's coming off of a contract extension. He's got to get his in too. Keldon Johnson has to get his in as well. Jeremy Sohan, as much as I don't like him playing the point guard role, and I don't think he's going to end up playing that role at a high level that's going to keep him there, he has to get his in. Or there's also Malachi Branham, as I mentioned. He's got to get his in as well. Zach Collins has to get his in. So there are a lot of other guys in this team who've got to get theirs in because they're a rebuilding team. So a lot of guys have to show that they can be an asset to the Spurs team for the future. And so that's going to cut down on Vic's touches. But even without having a real playmaker and even with having to kind of compete with these other guys for their looks and everything, he's still finding ways to be effective. and he's still finding ways to score within the rhythm of the offense, which is another really interesting thing. The best players, if you look at the course of NBA history, the best players know how to adapt into a team system in order to win. And that's why certain guys win multiple championships. Talk about Steph Curry. Steve Kerr comes in, implements his system where there's a lot of motion, a lot of screening actions, a lot of off-ball actions, and he's able to win, 4 titles at this point? Michael Jordan bought into that triangle offense. He was able to win 6. Kobe Bryant got 5, working in that triangle offense. Tim Duncan working in that motion-heavy offense, that cut-heavy offense that Greg Popovich ran, through that time with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and those other guys, right? So the best players show the ability to play within a team system. And I think early as 5 games in, but we're seeing kind of how Pop is playing Wemby, having him set a lot of ball screens, right? Having him do that sort of thing instead of just feeding him the ball and asking him to go ISO every single possession. That stuff is going to come in big time handy as he moves deeper into his career. If he learns how to play well within a team system and score within the rhythm of a team system early on, by year 3, if this Spurs team is really good and they're actually good enough to be a playing team or a playoff team, because I don't know how long it'll be till they actually get there, but by that time, Victor's going to be so tough to guard because he knows how to adapt and play within a winning basketball system where it's not just centric on him. He's able to be effective. We're seeing that now, but everything isn't so centric on him just getting the ball and everyone get the hell out the way. I know that's what people want to see because he's a super high level player that we've never seen before. So everybody wants to see him get the ball every possession down. But I like how Pop isn't playing it like that. Pop's letting him play within the rhythm of the offense, letting him screen set, play that, true power forward type of role where he's not bringing the ball up court every single possession. I think that's kind of what some people expected with his ball handling ability. No, Pop is letting him play within this team offense, and Vic is finding ways to score and be effective within it. And it's also teaching him these are the types of shots we're going to look to set you up. You're going to have to get post-ups. You're going to have to get these mid-range looks, maybe off of these flex actions. We're seeing them do that a lot early on. So these are the types of shots you've got to be able to hit. And we're seeing that, and I think that's going to be such a benefit to him as he moves deeper throughout the rest of his career. So I'm liking that about Vic as well. But interesting stuff we're seeing early on from him. He's been so good. The Spurs look solid. I don't know how much they're going to be able to keep this up the rest of the season. It's early, but they've gotten a lot of really good moments against really high-quality teams that I think coming into the season we looked at as championship contenders. They go 2-0 against a more talented, more experienced Suns team to get the season started. Then they have a really close game in their first game of the season against a Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving-led Dallas Mavericks team. So they've been really impressive so far early on here, and I can't wait to see what they do the rest of the time down. I like the other young guys they have, and I just like how Pop is letting these guys figure it out on the fly. But great stuff we're seeing here from the Spurs, and especially great stuff we're seeing here from Wemby. This is going to be a sign of great things to come in the near future.